All right, man. Y'all see the title. Y'all see the shirt. I've worn this shirt for every single one of these videos. You know the vibes. It's time to do the AFC West divisional preview, home of the reigning champion Kansas City Chiefs and home of the San Diego Los Angeles Chargers. You know the vibes. Honestly, growing up in San Diego on the West Coast, I am most familiar with these teams compared to all the other ones because I've watched all of these games between this division. I'm excited for this one. This is the last divisional preview video of the offseason. It's been a fun ride, but what better way to end it than with the AFC West, home of the reigning champions. But first, before we get there, there's one team ahead of them in alphabetical order. That is the Denver Broncos. So the Denver Broncos, so I think the elephant in the room with the Denver Broncos is that Russell Wilson was straight up cut and he created like millions upon millions of dollars in dead money. So so this team is just paying him to be on a different team, which is, you got to cut ties when it's time to cut ties. So to replace him potentially for the future, Bo Nix, 12th overall selection in last year's draft. He is potentially going to be the starting quarterback for this team. Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson are behind him. So it's not like he has like incredible competition, but it is competition. Bo Nix is a rookie. He was the last quarterback taken out of the 6. He wasn't like the most hyped draft prospect or anything like that. So there could be a real quarterback competition here. I just feel like out of the guys here, it's like, are we really going into the season running it with Jared Stidham or Zach Wilson? Like, is that really what they're going to do? I doubt it. So I'm expecting Bo Nix to start. I think if Sean Payton's offense can get going, if he can like format it well around Cortland Sutton and Javonte Williams and Greg Dulcich, I guess, Bo Nix could be a good distributor. He can be one of the good, serviceable guys that isn't like an MVP candidate type of thing. I think definitely lower ceiling, but I could see him being a good player with time. The running back situation is kind of interesting. Javonte Williams is still the running back 1. Samaje Perine might get cut. Jaleel McLaughlin is still here for now. There's lots of talk of just who might be getting cut, who might not be getting cut in this running back room. Audric Estime is a 6th round rookie who is an absolute bowling ball of a human. I love him. And then at wide receiver, I already mentioned Cortland Sutton is still here. Jerry Jeudy got traded to the Browns. Josh Reynolds picked up from the Lions. Troy Franklin drafted in the 4th round. He is Bo Nix's teammate. Oh, and Marvin Mims also from last year's draft. So it's like a serviceable group of wide receivers. It's definitely like in the bottom tier of a wide receiver groups in the NFL. I don't think they'll like completely hold back a Bo Nix. This could be a serviceable offense. I don't think they'll score a lot of points, but I think it can be functional at least, which is more than like what Bryce Young could say last year. So, maybe we could just get that for Bo Nix and call that a W. The defense is definitely not what it has been before. Pat Surtain is still here though. He's the GOAT. He's definitely at least the 2nd best corner in the league. Other than him though, it's nothing crazy. It's really nothing crazy. I really don't have much to say about this team just because it's like no one has any expectations for them. The team doesn't look that good. Like, I'm not trying to be a hater because I am wearing a Chargers shirt, but like, come on, like, just look at the roster, bro. Like, it's not. It's just a rebuilding team. Like, that's okay. That's, you can live with that. If they're the worst team in the league, it is what it is. So, but moving on to a team that is exciting to talk about. Kansas City Chiefs, they won a Super Bowl. They actually won 2 of them in back-to-back years. That's pretty good. Apparently, they got into a fight in training camp today. It's kind of sick. So I'm going to go ahead and let this play while I talk about them. But yeah, this team, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, like, what else do you really need to say? Like, it's 3 Hall of Famers. 3 Hall of Famers, some of the best at their position of all time. Like, cool. Good job. Like, receivers were completely terrible last year, and it didn't matter. Are we really expecting anything different? What are we hoping for? If you don't want them to win, like, what are you really hoping for? Like, you just got to be hoping for an injury, bro. Like, it was as bad as it could possibly look last year, and they just got better on offense. They did get worse on defense. Like, they lost the Jerry Sneed, but they do have good depth in the secondary. So I think it won't be too bad for them, but it's still a pretty big loss. Like, it's Jerry Sneed. So, if you're praying for their downfall, maybe you just hope their defense isn't as good and that, messes them up. But on offense, they just got better, bro. Like, they added 2 wide receivers. Marquise Brown, who is a veteran. He's got speed, lots of speed, deep threat, but he can also beat man coverage. Like, that's way better than MVS or Kadarius Toney, who's still on this team, by the way. Kadarius Toney's still here. They've just been trying him out at running back, apparently. Which, if he's better there, then fuck it, I don't care. He's good at running with the ball. So, whatever it takes for him. Then they drafted literally the fastest NFL player ever, Xavier Worthy. Like, fuck, bro. And I know there's debate on how good Xavier Worthy's actually going to be. I'll say right now that he's better than John Ross, 100%. He is not John Ross 2.0. This guy can play wide receiver. I know there's also debate on who is going to be, who's going to get more touches between him and Rashee Rice. I believe Rashee Rice is not going to be suspended. I don't know for sure. I think that the date of the court session means that he isn't going to get suspended this year. I think. I'm not 100% sure on that. Let's just stay updated on that. But there's debate on whether him or Xavier Worthy is going to get more touches. To me, this doesn't completely answer the question. But to me, I would bet on the first round receiver drafted in a stacked receiver class over the second round receiver drafted in a pretty bad receiver class. Is it that simple? Maybe, maybe not. But to me, I just think Xavier Worthy is going to be a better player than Rashee Rice. Will that happen next year? Maybe not. But I just think Worthy will be better than Rice. So that's my take. Who knows what will actually happen? They will very likely have very different roles in the offense, which could be more indicative of who gets more touches. This team is still really good. It still has Patrick Mahomes. Like, they're still going to be in the playoffs. They're still going to win the division. They still might make the Super Bowl. Like, I don't know. I really don't know what you could hope for if you're, rooting for their downfall. Maybe Travis Kelce hits the age cliff. Injuries. And the takeaway for this team, apparently having a very good quarterback and a very good offensive play caller yields very good results. What? Anyways, that's enough about him. Next team, the Las Vegas Raiders. Back to hating. So the Las Vegas Raiders lost Josh Jacobs, but they signed a very interesting slew of people. They got Gardner Minshew. They drafted Brock Bowers. So now they have Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, which is very interesting. They got Christian Wilkins from the Dolphins, which is pretty big. Still have Devontae Adams. I don't remember his name, but I know he's the offensive coordinator from Green Bay when Devontae Adams had his best statistical years. So I think that's good. I mean, the defense definitely looked better last year in the second half of the season, which is good. And then, of course, they added Christian Wilkins. So Max Crosby, Jack Jones, and the most Raider name, Divine Diablo. I remember seeing his name, Divine Diablo. Tyree Wilson is also here. I'm worried for the offense in terms of efficiency because if Gardner Minshew's the starter, if you've seen my AFC South preview where I talked about the Colts, you know that I think that he isn't great and he was holding back the offense, and Shane Steichen was working a miracle with him at starting at quarterback. I think Aiden O'Connell, I think if you just want to see what he gives you, I think that he could be a better starter than Minshew. And I know that Jay Gruden, if you're familiar with him, former head coach, he also said that Aiden O'Connell should give Gardner Minshew a run for his money for the starting job. So I would rather see Aiden O'Connell there, also because he's younger. It seems like they're rolling out with Zamir White at running back. We don't really know much about Zamir White because he's been behind Josh Jacobs this whole time, but we can assume they're going to run the ball a pretty decent amount. I know Antonio Pierce has said a lot of times he likes running the ball, so you can expect some running. And they also drafted Jackson Powers Johnson, so more O-linemen, which is always good in my eyes. So the team isn't like terrible. Can Gardner Minshew distribute well enough to Devontae Adams? If Aiden O'Connell plays, can he play well enough? Jacoby Myers is also here. Shout out to him. He was strangely good in fantasy last year. But yeah, I think this team, in the absolute best case scenario, which would obviously take a lot, this team could make it to the wild card. But like I said, that's an absolute best case. Like one of the quarterbacks plays out of his mind, and I don't see that happening. But to me, that is like the weakest spot on the team. So if that weak spot turns into like an average to good spot, then like that would send this team to the moon. But yeah, realistically, it's not happening. It might take away for this team. Your team is just cooler when you have like a historic culture to follow. Like people know the Raiders for being the Raiders. Like they're tough and they're mean and they're like in your face. And I think when you have that to lean into, the team is just cooler. Like last year when the Raiders were doing that, I was like, okay, like I see it. Like I haven't seen that Raiders spirit, I would say, since I was like a kid. So seeing a little bit of it last year, I was like, that's pretty cool. But that's as much props as I'm giving them because fuck the Raiders. But anyways, all right, we have reached the last team of the previews for the 2024 offseason. What better team to end it off on? Completely not planned, I promise. The Los Angeles Chargers, but in my heart still the San Diego Chargers, led by new head coach Jim Harbaugh, avid stan of Justin Herbert. So people always ask me like, are you a Chargers fan still? I'm mostly a fan of the players more so than the team. I want to see Justin Herbert succeed, so by association, I want the Chargers to succeed, but mostly for Justin Herbert's sake. But to talk about the team, Brandon Staley has been exiled. Tom Telesco, I forgot his name, I blanked so hard. Tom Telesco has been exiled. He actually went to the Raiders, which is hilarious. They saw what he did to our roster, and they said, we want that for us. But Tom Telesco is gone, replaced by Jim Harbaugh and John Horitz? Joe Ortiz, not John. So sorry. It's pretty clear that things are going differently in terms of the construction of the roster. Obviously, things started off with the draft. 5th pick, they picked Joe Alt over any of the receivers. And then in the 2nd round, they traded up for Ladd McConkey. I'm a big fan of those picks. I think that obviously Joe Alt was like the best tackle. Everything you're looking for in O-lineman. No drip. Big chubby dude. Like A1 pick. Like my concern was still wide receiver, but then they fixed it. They drafted Ladd McConkey. I'll not say fixed it, but they addressed it. Drafted Ladd McConkey. Big fan of Ladd. I think he's going to be really, really, really good. I'm not just saying that because I support the Chargers. and it's like, oh, our pick is gonna be so good. It's like I liked him before the draft, so when I saw the Chargers drafted him, I was like, okay, so they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing back there. Like like this is really cool to see. But yeah, I think that this team will definitely look different next year compared to last year. I mean, once once Staley got fired, the team actually started playing like a team. I mean, there's a lot to talk about with this team just because I've been exposed to a lot of the news and stuff with this team. I'll talk about the defense real quick. Like, there's definitely talented players, but obviously it takes more than a few players to make things work. But if Joey Bosa can lock in, Khalil Mack can keep going at his older age, Asante Samuel Jr. develops, Derwin James comes back to earth after whatever Staley was making him do, because he looked way better before Staley arrived, I'll say that. And there's a lot of young corners on this team, or corners that, are kind of like dart throws, or we're just like, maybe it'll pay off, maybe it'll work. Like, there's not really like optimism, I would say, with the defense. It's there's a little bit of hope, but it's not. I don't think anyone's expecting this defense to be really good. For the offense, there's a lot of people saying Justin Herbert's gonna throw like 15 passes a game or whatever, which is not true. He will throw the ball. Jim Harbaugh's never had a quarterback like Justin Herbert, even back when he's in San Francisco. He had Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. Now he's got Justin Herbert. And obviously, this is still going to be a run-heavy team. They did sign Gus Edwards. They signed J.K. Dobbins. They drafted Kamani Vidal in the 5th round. Like, this team is going to run the ball. The O-line is built to run the ball. So they're going to run the ball. But that's also going to open up the pass game. Get play action going. Get Ladd McConkey working downfield. Quentin Johnston, who I haven't mentioned yet, who I, for the record, did not like coming out of last year's draft. It's all over my friends group chat. Like, I was not happy with the pick. It is what it is. He could still be good. He's like, I think the training camp reports say he's like the wide receiver 4 right now. He could still develop, so I'm not fully out on him. I just was never really a big fan of his in the first place. With the departure of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, there is definitely room for these wide receivers to grow into new roles. Like Josh Palmer, he's always been the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 when Mike Williams is out, wide receiver 1 when both of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen were out. So, Josh Palmer's been around. He is the most experienced with Justin Herbert on this roster. So, hey, if you're looking for a fantasy sleeper, I mean, Josh Palmer's right there. Ladd McConkey's right there. Anyways, with all that being said, me personally, I think it's possible this team's a wild card team that was like barely won and got in off a tiebreaker. Realistically, this team is probably like 8-9, maybe 9-8. I looked at their schedule; it looks pretty bad. Like a lot of bad opponents. So there's a chance they just get a lot of wins off of some easier teams, and that's how they get in the playoffs. But apparently, Herbert hurt his foot recently, which is obviously not great. He's supposed to be ready for week 1. If not, that's pretty bad. But yeah, I just think the culture is going to be different around this team, and the front office is clearly doing things that the last front office was not doing. So there's hope in Charger land. So, but I'm not a crazy fan. I'm not saying they're anywhere near a Super Bowl. It's going to take at least another year of development and new talent coming in, because I do think there's just the cornerback holes are pretty glaring, and that's kind of one of the most important positions. So we'll see what happens with that. But the takeaway with the Chargers, a new coach and a new front office can change everything. They can change everything. It might not save you. Like I said with the Broncos, the coach alone might not save you. But starting from the top, new coach and a new front office, it'll help. Also, having a good social media team is pretty awesome. Shout out to Megan, the social media manager for the Chargers. Salute. But that is going to do it that is the last team for the previews for the 2024 offseason. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. If you've watched multiple of these or all of these, I really appreciate it. You're the best. I appreciate you so much. If I talked about one of your favorite teams, leave a comment. Tell me what you thought. Let me know what your expectations are for your team, which players you're looking out for on your team or the other teams. Talk some trash, because I know the AFC West doesn't like each other either. Yeah, leave a like, hit subscribe, because I do have more content coming soon for the regular season and for whatever's left of this offseason or preseason now at this point. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you see more of me soon, and peace out. Play that song.